What are the current conditions of the Florida housing market?
It's scary, man. I can see the same thing happen as in '08 or maybe even worse, because if you look back at '07 to 10, some areas dropped 48%. And back then, the problem was a bad mortgage. That was the only problem then. Unemployment was fine. Nothing else was bad. Now you have unemployment. You have the affordability problem. Stock market's inflated beyond belief. Smoke and mirrors, like nothing's what it seems. Housing is 300% higher than it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. There's so many factors and so much pressure put on the housing values. It's crazy. It's like 4 times what it was back then. We all know these houses aren't worth it.
So do you think 50%?
I can see it. There's 12,000 properties hitting the market every 7 days. The last 7 days, over 15,000 price drop. So it's just getting worse. It's compounding, man. And nothing is selling.
So my advice to the buyers is sit tight. Phil, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Todd, great to be here, man.
It's kind of weird, man. When you first jumped on, I was wondering where Phil was because you shaved.
Yeah, 10 years younger, right? Got rid of the gray.
Good. Yeah, man, looks good. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, the last time, we got a lot to cover. I mean, the Florida real estate market, I keep hearing in the news that you guys are like the epicenter of the disaster in the housing market for a lot of reasons, and I want to cover some of that. But you're a real estate broker in Florida. You also own a real estate school, and you provide education for those that, I don't know why they'd want to get in this business right now, but that those that want to get the real estate license, you have a school that provides the education where they can meet the requirements to sit for the state and federal exams. But kind of for context, because a lot of people may be new to seeing you on our show or new to our show altogether. When we're talking about Florida and you being a real estate broker in Florida, kind of lay down some context as to your footprint so that everybody understands where you cover.
Yeah, actually, my headquarters is in Jacksonville. I also had offices in Orlando and Fort Lauderdale. During COVID, I consolidated everything because a lot of the stuff went virtual. I have agents throughout the state: Naples, Tampa, Jacksonville, Orlando, Kissimmee, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. So we do business throughout the state of Florida. And also Tennessee and North Carolina were licensed. And so that's kind of our footprint. The state of Florida, our headquarters, again, is in Jacksonville, and we service the entire state.
Over the last few years, we've been podcasting together, and you've been updating us on the Florida housing bubble. And in one of our last videos a few months ago, you had said the Florida housing bubble had burst and that sellers were taking a bath. I mean, we looked at different houses on Zillow together. We were talking about a couple listings that you had. And now we're in the spring market. I mean, traditionally, in real estate, in the housing market, this is the best time for home sales. What are the current conditions of the Florida housing market?
Yeah. Realistically, the sellers are starting to come to reality. 17 listings I'm working on right now, we've reduced about 75% of them. They're starting to realize that the buyers, they're coming for the showings. Showings have picked up a little bit. However, offers aren't. So we're getting a little more traffic over the last couple of weeks, but you're not getting the feedback. Like a lot of the agents aren't giving the feedback. I'm reaching out, hey, can you give me some feedback? What's going on? Nothing. No phone calls back, which, I mean, that's just the agents. Most of them don't, unless they need something. They're not going to, waste the time, I guess, or give the courtesy to let you know what's going on, or, hey, no good here, no good there. Give you some ideas of what you can give back to your seller. Information, but I'm seeing the showings pick up. Offers are down. I mean, it's that sellers are starting to realize, hey, something's different now, and they're starting to they're calling me about price reductions. Honestly, before I can even get to them, because our listings, I give them a call on Fridays. Every Friday, I talk to them. Hey, here's what's going on. We had this many showings, or hey, nothing's happened. I'm always transparent. Always give them an update to keep that communication line open. Just tell them the truth. And they're actually reaching out to me. I had a gentleman reach out to me. I have 2 listings with him for investment properties. And He's like, listen, do you think we should drop this down a little bit? And I tell him, look, I was going to call you Friday. That was going to be my conversation with you. And we literally dropped the price yesterday. We dropped it 15,000, and I have 2 showings that already scheduled now since I dropped it. So who knows? I mean, we're below the comps. Like if you're looking at the comps, the listings are actually a little bit below the comp sales for the last 3 to 6 months. So the market's coming down. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Now, are there certain areas that aren't? Look, Lauderdale by the Sea, certain areas in Fort Lauderdale, certain areas in Miami, they're not coming down. And I mean, they may come down eventually, but if there's more people that want to be in that building than that building has to offer, there's always going to be places like that, you know? And sooner or later, they're going to get affected because just because people have money don't mean they're going to spend it. You know what I mean? Just they're going to come to reality and say, listen, there's HOA fees, there's condo fees, the taxes are going up, but now they're talking about getting rid of the taxes, right? DeSantis is coming out with this whole platform now of trying to eliminate taxes, which I don't know how that's going to work because, the local municipalities are fighting it because all their money comes from the taxes. So like the city of Jacksonville came out against it because, where are they going to get their money for the trash and the garbage and the police? Like all that comes from the taxes. So I'm sure there's going to be some kind of trade off, but who knows? I mean, the politicians, it's just a mess.
One of the things that you said, I want to kind of backtrack, is talking about, when we list things on the MLS, we have the ability to send out follow-up questionnaires to the agents that show a specific property to say, hey, what was your overall opinion of the showing? What's your opinion on the price? Or is your client, one of the first questions, at least with Bright, is your client interested? No, somewhat, whatever. It is really important that from a professional standpoint, the agents do that. The buyers, you said, well, they don't want to waste their time. The buyer agents don't want to waste your time. Well, guess what? You never want to be a listing agent. I mean, when you are a listing agent, will you expect a buyer's agent to give you that feedback? And you're exactly right. I mean, they don't want to waste the time, which is bullshit, in my opinion, because it's your profession to take the time. You scheduled an appointment. You went through somebody's house. This is a courtesy. If you're an agent listening to this, take 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Let the listing agent know if they're sending you something saying, can you give me an evaluation? Because sellers need to know that. If you want to do your buyers justice, if you want to do your clients justice, your buyers that you're driving around and carting out there, let these sellers know why your buyer's not interested. Maybe you will impact and give the agent, the listing agent, the tools that they need to go back to the seller and say, it's too high. The reason your house isn't selling is because you want too much money. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Sometimes what happens with that is, the MLS tells them that they don't have to give feedback if the buyer doesn't want to. A lot of times buyers don't want to give any feedback because they don't want to give their cards. But here's what happens. When they give that feedback, it's not coming from the buyer, it's coming from them.
The buyer doesn't even know.
Don't understand.
The buyer doesn't know.
Right. The agents need to go in there and just say, hey, here's the situation. Buyer didn't like this or this, something like that. So it gives you tools when you're talking to the seller. Say, look, this is what this person said. And this is what that person said. And the other thing too, Todd, a lot of them don't even show up for the showings. Like they'll schedule the showing, and I've been running into this a lot lately. They just won't show up. They don't.
What do you mean?
Call, they don't. They just don't show up at the showing.
What does
go.
Their client? Do they give them access to the house to see it without them?
Well, they can't because they can't get in without the phone, the key box. But I think they just don't go. Like maybe the client and maybe they cancel, but they don't take 5 seconds to cancel it with you. Or I have one I have one listing where the seller lets them in. There's no lockbox, no sign due to security. She has top secret clearance with the military, and she has to be there. She can't have people walking through her house without her there. So she literally, whatever she has in her office or whatever. So she literally opens the door and lets them in. I've had 2 or 3 last week that scheduled, nothing. She's waiting for them. And she calls me up. Hey, nobody's here again. At least send a message, communicate. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy what they're
that
doing.
is crazy. And you use Supra. We use Centralock. We used to use Supra, but
Yeah,
you don't have listing agents that don't want to pay Supra fees or buy
they do.
Supra boxes and they put combos on.
Yeah, they don't know they do, but I supply them as the broker. Like I put
But I'm
all my
not talking
listings,
about
all our
your
listings.
agent. I'm talking about
Oh,
other
other agents.
agents. You're saying they don't use combo box?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. A
Huh.
lot. I mean,
So
a good percentage.
do you ever see agents just give their clients the code and say just go look at the house without
Oh,
me?
I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen before. Not with the reason I use Super is so that doesn't happen because
Right. Right
I
on.
don't trust it. Like
Right
what I
on.
mean, God forbid they go in and something goes wrong. I don't trust them.
Do
So
you have
that's why I
agents?
spend the expense.
Do you ever have agents call you up, Phil, and say, "Hey, would you do me a favor and show my client I don't have Supra access. Can you show my client your house for
Yeah,
sale?"
I tell them a 25% referral fee for the commission, and I will. That's what I tell
Oh man, that's
'em.
amazing. Well, look, one of the things we're going to talk about, not now, because we're going to deliver to the ones that are clicked on this to learn about Florida housing market. We're going to give them the goods. But I do want to have a conversation, a broker to broker conversation with you about what we've been seeing since the NAR lawsuits and rulings and all that settlement stuff. We're going to dive into that towards the end of the show. So if you guys are interested in that and not Florida, maybe you just want to skip ahead to that chapter. But one of the things I want to kind of get a recap on. So the home prices are still falling, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
100%.
One of the reasons why we talked about now Florida during the pandemic. I mean, you guys were firecracker hot, man. I mean, it was like I think we've had previous podcasts where we've gone over domestic migration maps, and you guys were like glowing. It was probably one of the biggest states in the country, the whole state, where people were just flocking because of I guess DeSantis and his mandates were a lot looser during the pandemic, and than a lot of lockdown states, and but when we spoke last time, you had said that people were flocking, that they were, I need to get back out of out of the state. I'm going back to where I came from. And, I think a lot of Floridians have come from other states, whether they flock there because they're retirees or they're snowbirds or whatever it is. You get a lot of that vacations. There's that whole vacation vibe with the Sunshine State. But you had mentioned that overall affordability were driving people away, and that Floridians were pissed off because they're like, I've been invaded. And now, because of that, and the prices going skyrocketing everywhere, these migrants have made my life unaffordable. Are you still seeing people exiting the state?
Yeah. The people who the more of the people who've grown up here, a lot of them even going to Tennessee, a lot of them going to North Carolina, a lot of it. Um, the people coming in are it's a different element of people. There's people that are moving here, they're retiring. That's always gonna happen. You're always gonna have retirees coming to Florida. The expenses have gone up. The costs have gone up. There's no question. The fees, just the daily living. One of the biggest things I'm hearing, I had a client I talked to you about last time we were on. He's selling here in Tampa and he's moving out of state. He's going to Tennessee. And his exact words were what you just said. They've been here since the 80s, mid 80s, and it's not what it used to be. Too much traffic, infrastructure is not there. Even medically, they have to they're month out for appointments with their doctors. Like a lot of things have changed from old Florida to what's going on now. And I don't think the infrastructure has stayed up with it. You know, the hospital services, the things like, I mean, they're big services. Don't get me wrong. They're big operations, but I don't think the services, I mean, police, firefighters, I don't think it's stayed up. The infrastructure with the roads, traffic is insane. I mean, here in Jacksonville, you try to go from Jacksonville to Orange Park between 3 and 6 p.m. It's an hour and 45 minutes, hour and 15-minute drive.
For
And
how many
it's
miles?
7 miles, 8 miles,
Oh,
10
wow.
miles.
Yeah.
And that whole strip there, 295 and 95. I mean, forget it. I mean, Jacksonville, you got to drive where you're going. It's not like Fort Lauderdale. You're 15 minutes from everything. Jacksonville's, it's the largest city in the country when it comes to square footage, right? So when you can go from one side of Jacksonville to the other, it takes you an hour, if you're really with traffic and things. And it's just a lot of the convenience of Florida and a lot of the, you know, lower expenses when people would retire here, houses were cheaper, costs were cheaper. You could retire here on a pension. And a lot of that's gone away, forget South Florida. I mean, you from Palm Beach down, I mean, you could forget about a pension living on that. I mean, that's not even possible. You got the West Coast, but once you get down towards Naples, I mean, you're talking like, Port Jefferson, or not Port Jefferson, over by Punta Gorda in that area. Um, that's still affordable. But once Cape Coral, that area, with their inventory is blowing up. I mean, it's one of the worst in the state. You can still get deals there. But again, you're not close to everything. You got to drive, you got to go. It's not convenience anymore for the people who retire. But it's changed. I mean, it's a different demographic for sure.
Well, home prices have practically doubled in like 3 short years. And as far as price corrections, many believe that a 10% price correction is peanuts, pennies. So, what's your opinion from the highs of home prices during the 22-23 period? Because home prices have been declining since in Florida. What percentage of price drops from that peak, that like 22-23 peak? I mean, what type of price drop percentages do you predict? As you're a real estate broker. What do you predict?
Yeah. It's scary, man. If you look back at '07 to 10, right? Some areas dropped 48%, 49%. And back then, the problems was a bad mortgage problem where A and B paper were rolled in, or C and B paper were rolled into A paper, and the mortgage collapsed, right? Because of the option arm loans and all that. That was the only problem then, right? Unemployment was fine. Nothing else was bad. Jobs were fine. Now, not only do we have, unemployment crazy, we're in different wars, stock market's inflated beyond belief, smoke and mirrors, like nothing's what it seems. Housing is 300% higher than it was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. There's so many factors and so much pressure put on the housing values. It's crazy. It's like 4 times what it was back then. There's the buyers can't afford it, right? The average buyer back then needed to make $65,000 a year, a household income. Now they need $109,000 a year for the same house because of the higher price, because of the taxes, the insurance, and if there's an HOA. So first of all, you got to make that much more. They're not making that much more. Incomes haven't gone up that much. A lot of people just can't afford it. It's that affordability index. Now what's happening is the sellers, if you bought a house from mid 21 to now, you're in trouble. You got a great rate, but you paid top of the market. You're not getting out of that. I mean, the deal that I just got under contract, the one we were talking about from our others, are in that situation, right? Where they have to sell for a certain amount. And if they can't get it, they got to either rent it or just hold on to it because there's no equity. There's nothing there. They have a great rate, 4.8%. It's assumable. That's what we're doing. But they can't get out of it. Now, if you have a seller who bought the house in like 18, beginning of 19 back, they have plenty of equity. They just have to determine how much they want to take off the equity with the market coming down. I have one, we down in Zephyr Hills, we took 25,000 off about 4 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And we just reduced it another 15,000 yesterday.
And how much is it now?
Now it's at 305. I sold the house right next door to it for 315 3 months ago, right next door. I sold the house right next door, closed at 315. We were at the same list price. They negotiated down to 315. They liked that house better. They looked at both. The house that I have now on the market had a tenant in it. They just moved out. So they bought the one without the tenant. That's why they took the other one.
Same house, essentially. Same house.
Same floor plan, same everything.
So now a couple months later, you're 10,000 less and it's still active, still not.
And it's still active. I just scheduled 2 showings. I reduced it yesterday, 15,000. I got 2 showings scheduled, one yesterday, one this morning. So now we're going to see. We're going to see what happens.
So what do you think? I mean, if you had to predict, what do you think from the 22 highs? Do you think we're looking at a 30% hit in pricing from that point? 40%, 50%? I mean, what do you think?
I can see the same thing happen as an '08 or maybe even worse because, like, again, I was saying about those pressures, right? Before it was just that bad mortgage market and that all got chaos and then AIG failed and all that stuff, the secondary market. Now you have unemployment, you have the affordability problem, you have the fact that these houses went up 300%. We all know these houses aren't worth that. I mean, it's
So
just
do
a
you think
fact.
50%?
I can see it. I can see 50%, 40, 50% in certain areas.
I hope you're enjoying the interview so far. I just wanted to take a brief moment and let you know that this podcast is brought to you by SachsRealty.com. Here at Sachs Realty, we're committed to bringing you the best real estate education and helping buyers and sellers achieve their real estate goals. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so now. And don't forget, we're on every major social media platform, so you can follow us there as well. Now back to the show.
See, people have to understand this is going to happen everywhere. It's not going to happen on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. It's not going to happen in Naples. You buyers have to understand not everything is going to go down. Sellers understand that, right? Because now the sellers also have to come to the understanding that, certain areas are going to drop again, like before. I have clients in '08, they bought a house in Cape Coral for $160,000, $180,000, and they sold at the top of the market a couple years ago. 375, 400. That same house now, if you look at the same addresses now, they're down to about 325 to 350. The same houses. That same house went from 160, came all the way back up. Now they're starting to come back down. If you can buy a house and you can ride the wave through, if you need to buy a house, the first thing you need to do, and this is what I do with buyers, I look at every property with a assumable mortgage, every FHA and every VA property that's on the market, because they're assumable. And I explain to that buyer, Todd, I tell them, look, the asset is the mortgage you're buying, not the house. If you can get a mortgage at $350,000 at 3.5%, and you're buying a house anyway, because listen, if you got to live, you got to pay rent or you got to buy a house. You're still paying monthly on a property. And I tell them, like, look, it's a long-term thing. You can't look at it as, hey, I'm going to buy this house and it's going to go up $50,000 in 3 years. That house may go down $100,000.
But you have to also have the cash. If you don't have the cash, you're screwed. So, I mean, if you're going to tell people to look for assumable mortgage, you also have to tell them that if you don't have cash, that means nothing for you. Because if you bought the house 5 or 6 or 7 years ago and the price is doubled on the house, then you have to put the extra $300,000 in cash because you can only assume the balance. And if they paid half price back then for the house, unless they're going to sell the house for half price, the assumable mortgage means nada. So, and if the house isn't worth it, it doesn't do anything. So, and that's the problem. And we get a lot of people because we're VA, a lot of VA in this state of Maryland because of, our, government employees and our military bases. But the thing is, if you don't have the cash, it means nothing. I did an assumption. I sold a house for clients a couple months ago, but the people sold their house in Hawaii, moving to Maryland. They had plenty of cash because the house they were buying was a lot less affordable, costly than the one in Hawaii, and they had a ton of equity. So it worked, but it doesn't work for everybody.
The only assumables, not for everybody. The only if the house was bought between like late 21 to like 2023, late 21 to 23, that period, if you find that those FHA and VAs, they're usually low equity in them, and they're usually a low rate.
But why not just wait until the market takes a crap, and why not worry about the rate? Why not say, you know what, you bought at the height of the market. I don't want to buy at the height of the market. I'll be in the same spot as you are in 5 years when I go to sell my house, because when this market crashes this time, it ain't climbing back fast, man. It's not.
It's going to be a while.
It's going to be a while. If anything, we're going to see a flat line for quite some time. And I tell you what, I would rather have the good price, especially if I
Yeah,
had cash. I'd rather have the good price of the house than I would the mortgage payment. I mean the mortgage rate. I would.
it takes. It's going to be 7 to 10 years, man. When this thing crashes, it's going to be 7 to 10 years. I think. I mean,
Yes.
realistically, it's going to be a tough market. It's going to be hard for people. And the thing is, you know, what you're saying too, it depends on the buyer, man. It depends on their situation. Either they need a deal on the house or they need the asset, the mortgage, right? It just depends on that situation and everybody's different.
I
That's
want to
really what
I
it is.
want to skip ahead a little bit because I want to challenge you on what you said about it won't be all areas, because
Mhm.
I honestly don't think that there will be any housing market immune to the wave of correction or crash that's coming, because of the fact of when things start going down. You mentioned the stock market. Well, a lot of the investors now, you might have foreign investors from other countries buying up your top dollar real estate in Miami and Fort Lauderdale and things like that, and that may very well be the case. But when you start to see the effects of the tariffs that are taking place, they may
Yeah.
not be so wanting to do that, but they may not be as rich as they think they are. And then the other thing is when the stock market takes you know a when we realize that what these stocks are trading for in earnings, you will honestly say there's no way that these companies will ever make enough money for me to get my money out of the stock market. We've already seen a massive sell-off happen a week ago or so, where we had a 10% correction in the stock market, which is huge. That's big. You only have certain stocks, companies that are carrying the stock market. If you took those away, I mean, I think more people are losing money than making money. So it's a very select few that are actually doing
It's a lot
really,
of smoke
really
and mirrors, man.
well. A lot of smoke and mirrors. So now you take unemployment. There was just an announcement. The Pentagon is letting 60,000 employees go, recent hires or whatever. Of course, they were hiring 6,000 a month, so it doesn't seem like a lot when you think that they're hiring 72,000, had been hiring 72,000 people a year, but now they're doing a 60,000 person cut. We know that a lot of this money, top earning, the top earners are starting to get cut. Here you go. Thanks, Joe, for pulling that up. Pentagon is cutting up to 60,000 civilian jobs. About a third of those took voluntary resignations. This is brand new news. This is hot off the press. So I don't think when we're looking at buyers, out there, or saying, well, I have to pay this amount of money if I want to live in Fort Lauderdale, or I have to pay, wait it out. Because you know what? When things start to go the other way, and they have, in my opinion, I think that what we're going to see is everything's going to cost less. These assets are going to cost less because everything else is costing more. So the high property tax is going to suppress home prices. The high cost of HOAs and condos are going to suppress home prices. The high cost of insurance and repairs and maintenance are going to make it, because this also has to be paid. So when you start taking all these other things into account, you start looking at the asset price going, well, the actual asset's not worth it because of all of these other things. So at the very least, the pressure will be because of that. Right now, take all of these other things that you mentioned, job loss, unemployment, whatever. But I want to bring this up because I want your opinion on this, because this could destroy your state even more. And in fact, I think they're probably thinking about destroying a lot of the country because of this. They want to put people in sheds. They want to have people living in sheds now in backyards
Tiny
versus,
homes and everything, right?
instead of making homes more affordable, or instead of letting the asset prices adjust, the government shows up a day late and a dollar short, in my opinion. Once again, it's like you could probably be a bird that's perched up, at somebody like Jay Powell, and a talking bird, an intelligent talking bird that could be singing what's really going on. And then it takes like 2 years before they go, that singing bird was right. I mean, that bird was really smart and really understood what was going on. Let's keep interest rates at zero and let these asset prices get to the point to where when we raise the rates up, nobody can afford anything. That's a great idea. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Now look at this. This is CBS News Miami. Lawmakers look at granny flats. I like that. They call granny flats
That's
in
new.
Florida.
That's new.
That's new. To help address Florida's housing problems. Now, I want to pull a couple things out here, and I want to get your opinion on it. So it says, as Florida continues to struggle with lack of affordable housing, lawmakers are looking at granny flats to help address the problem. Senate and House panels Tuesday, this is brand new stuff, approved bills that would require cities and counties to allow adding what are technically known as accessory dwelling units, but are often known as granny flats in single-family residential areas. And granny flats are independent living spaces added to homes or properties. Current laws say local governments can allow granny flats, but the new legislation would require them to do so. Now, ADUs, accessory dwelling units, increase workforce housing. Because that doesn't even sound right. ADU, accessory dwelling units, increase workforce housing. So in other words, the people that work in Florida that can't make any money because I don't know how much money you make in the hospitality business, especially when people start tightening their belts or working in retail stores and stuff like that. It says because ADUs cost less to build, they cost less to rent. They're often located in urban areas where workers need to live in order to be close to their jobs.
Doesn't make sense. So you're going to have somebody in one house that's paying $500,000 for a house to live there, tons of taxes. And then next door, you're going to have a house with a couple of these in the back with people paying $500 a month rent, drinking, partying, making noise. Like it doesn't, like the quality of the people you're going to get isn't going to be the same. Like, the problems you're going to cause with. I don't know. I don't know. Like you got people, you got the blind trying to lead you. These people probably don't even own real estate. Like these lawmakers and like they come up with these ideas.
Oh, they own real estate, but they're mansions.
Yeah. And there's no granny flats.
They don't have any sheds in their backyard.
Yeah, right. There's no granny flat over there. But the point I'm trying to make is like these people come up with these ideas that are just like I don't know where it comes from. Like, what are they thinking? Like you can't like you have a neighborhood, you have HOAs. They're not going to allow that. An HOA, you can't even have the wrong color flag hanging. They're going to put a shed in the back with somebody living in it. And is it going to have to somebody that's related to you, or is it going to have to be somebody like it? That's insanity. I mean, there's no parking.
When this unaffordable system implodes, you'll be able to buy the house next door for the price of the granny flat. But I got 2 questions for you, Phil. 2 questions.
Crazy. It was crazy.
Right. Do you agree that the answer to America's unaffordable housing problem is to allow backyard sheds to be considered dwelling units?
Absolutely not. It's to help make houses affordable with monetary policy, help make people earn more money, in the business structure and tax breaks. Like you help a company make more money, they're going to reinvest in their business. They're going to reinvest in their employees. You're going to be able to make more money and they're going to be able to live better. You got to reduce property taxes. There's a lot of waste, man. It's going into like all this money, you got police officers, you got firefighters making 6-figure, like big money, pensions, all the pensions they got to pay for that they promised these people. There's no money for it. And who's wrong? The people aren't wrong for doing the job for 20 years and retiring. The government, it was these ideas. People that have no clue to how things work come up with these ideas and they just put them out there and then they vote on them. I mean, you look at these politicians, it's crazy, dude. Politicians, when this country was founded, they weren't full time. They had a job, they had a business, and then they went and they voted, in a separate time. They had their own businesses. Politicians now making 6 figures. God knows they're making millions because of all the payoffs, but they're full time and they don't even go to their area. They live in DC. They go back once in a while. It's ridiculous. So you got politicians who are so disconnected from people making decisions for people. And who wants a shed in their backyard with 5 people living in it with a kid?
An investor, an investor, somebody that can make money
Nobody
on their
lives there.
property. Yeah, right. Or somebody that's house hacking or something like that. It would be music to their ears. I don't think it's music to the homeowner's ear next door that has the parties, like you said, or the people that are, the next question that I have, and this is why I say that the government is always a day late, dollar short. And I've kind of said this, just a couple minutes ago, but if home prices correct 30, 40, 50% or more, in your opinion, would that be the step in the right direction for people to be able to afford an actual home next door versus a shed in the backyard?
They have to. It's not if they do, they have to, because that affordability index, right? You got to take it back down to that $65,000 household income to afford that house for an average family. The only way you're going to go from 109 down to that 60, 65 again, where it was prior to this, is that 30 to 40% drop, or the rates have to go back down to 2%. That's the only thing that's going to get you back to that affordability rate. So it's either prices come down or rates go down, right? Or a mix of both. Maybe it comes down 15% and rates come down to 4.5, same percentage, but the prices either have to come down so the average person making $65,000 household income can afford it, or the rate's going to have to come back. It's the price
Yeah.
or the rate.
Well,
That's all it is. It's numbers.
well, I think the home prices have to come down because the property taxes need to come down and the insurance needs to come down. So if we need to find a way to have, and I'm hoping that, I know these tariffs may cause pain, but if we start doing more production here in the country, I'm hoping that we can start to, instead of paying tariffs and instead of making other countries wealthy, that we can start to do things in our own country and manufacture things in our own country so that we can actually afford to make things to repair and maintain our homes instead of these ridiculous costs that are right now. So I think the prices have to come down. And you know what? Here's the thing. If the housing market doesn't correct, then the government will be right. They will have a lot more people living in backyard sheds, call them what you want, granny flats, or ADUs, dress it up, accessory dwelling unit. But you know what's going to happen is all these houses are going to be empty, because if the house prices don't correct, the other thing would be if people just make a lot more money. And I don't think that's going to be possible. I think the businesses are struggling.
The volume of business is down. Listen, I have the pizza business, right? So flour's up 60%. Cheese is up almost 40%. Tomato products, topping up 35, 40%. These restaurants, all their profit has gone up. The cost of the employees has gone up.
The profit, you mean the costs? The costs have gone up.
Right.
Profits have gone down. Right.
The profit they were making has gotten eaten away by the inflation. So these operations, all these businesses are losing money. Like the money that was their profit is gone. It's eaten up, and they're going negative because they can't raise the prices. They can't raise the prices to the public. Everything else has gone up. So the profit margin, they have a job. The profit margin got wiped away. And you're going to see in the next 3 to 6 months, a lot of businesses going under because they're doing the volume, but they can't do the business.
Yeah, I went to dinner last week for a birthday gathering at a restaurant, Ruth's Chris Restaurant. You ever heard of that before? You've been out there on Florida, sure. Yeah. And so we have a local franchisee. Ruth is the franchisor, but local franchisee here. I think at one point, I think it's Steve Del Castro is his name. And I think he had like maybe 8 or 9 of these restaurants or whatever. And when the economy tanked the last time, I think, business backed off and they closed a couple of them. One of my favorites was in Baltimore on Water Street. That closed, had a nice cool cigar bar on the top of it. Great spot, but it went down the tubes. They do still have a Baltimore restaurant not that far from where that location shut down. But we were at the one in Pikesville this past week, and I mean, it was not very busy. And look, things are really high, man. I'm talking things are expensive. But they had this creative menu where, you could do this pre-planned whatever, and it was a lot less money. But we were talking to the waitress and we said, like, how's business? And she's like, bad. Like over the last year and a half, things have really cooled down.
Yeah.
And really recently things have cooled down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to your point, I think what's happening here is that in order for those businesses to stay in business, they have to raise their prices. And as they're raising their prices, more and more people are saying, well, I can no longer afford to go out. I mean, I'm paying $20 for a hamburger. I'll have to make it myself, or I'll have to get something less expensive.
Yeah. 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 Perfect example of this. I own a bar and a restaurant in Easton, Pennsylvania with my brothers. I've had it before I even moved to Florida. My brothers took it over when I came here. It's called Mother's Bar and Grill. It's in downtown in the Circle. It's all bars and restaurants. The Lafayette College is right there, big college bar. And I just got off the phone with the accountant before I came here, and sales were up tremendously this year. Profits were down because the costs, the liquor costs, the food costs. My brothers, didn't raise prices. They, to keep the volume people coming in. So they did more work. They paid more salaries. They paid more everything, more electric bill, more gas bill, more everything. Liquor license, insurance tripled, for the bar, which is significant. You're paying $2,500 a month for insurance just to insure the bar because of liquor, and I'm talking to her and going over the numbers, and I'm seeing how much more work they're doing to make how much more less money if they don't raise the prices. That's the next conversation. We got to start going like this because, I mean, you're losing. And this is what I'm saying. I'm living it.
And these college kids can't afford it. They're not going to pay more money. I mean, it's, to go have a hamburger or
yeah. They don't have it. Yep. And what are you going to do? Charge $25 for a burger instead of 15? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, how much can you charge for a burger in a college town? I mean, the place is packed. You're doing the volume, but you're not getting. But
you've kept the prices lower.
Exactly.
Right.
And you're doing more work for less money. And that's happening in every business. It leads you to no profits. It leads you, you're better off going to get a job. All that work for what? All the liability for what? But that's just, the way it works.
I want to dive back into this article here and dive a little bit deeper into this because, along the same spirit of what we're talking about with salaries and costs of businesses and stuff, it says, again, ADUs, accessory dwelling units, increase workforce housing. Who is your workforce? I mean, am I wrong when I'm saying that a lot of the jobs in Florida don't pay much money? I mean, isn't a lot of it hospitality?
A lot of it's hospitality and service. And then you also have like administrative. There's a lot of business, a lot of companies, a lot of management companies, a lot of, property management companies. That's what you have. You do have a lot of technology companies too that came here. There are some technology companies, certain areas in Florida that came here. But the workforce in general is, mostly service and hospitality and medical. I mean, that's a lot of it. Everybody's a real estate agent.
Before we get into that, because that's our next stop. Let's give the buyers and sellers some advice. If you're a buyer right now, what should they be doing? Should they just sit and rent for a little bit longer and let the prices come down?
As a buyer, it depends, right? So every situation is different. If they need to buy something, my recommendation is look for something. If you have cash, look for something that's assumable. If you have not so much cash, find something from late 21 to 23 that you could put 25, 30 grand plus closing down, like we're doing on the one I'm closing now, and they're getting the 4.8 if they have to buy. Make sure the house is in good condition. Because a lot of the houses right now in the market need work. They're run down. There's problems, and the sellers are trying to get out of it. So that's one of the things. That's another problem down here. So if you're a buyer, start with looking. First of all, have the right agent, right? You need the right broker or right agent to navigate you through this. Making the offers, you got to look at the comps, what's going on, and you got to look at the market trajectory. Trajectory is coming down. Somebody's asking 475 for a house. Comps are showing 475. We just offered 460, 462 on a house, and we got it. But there was an issue with the financing to assume a mortgage on it. But it's that situation. As a buyer, decide you're going to either pay rent for the next year or two, or you can buy a place with the right terms for a year or two. The rent money you're going to pay is just throwing it away. So you really want to consider, hey, am I going to spend $2,500 a month on rent and throw all that money away for 2 years when I can
I'm going
find
to
something?
say yes. I'm going to disagree with you. Yeah.
No, but it depends on the deal. I mean,
Yeah.
like
What you're
sometimes
saying from 475 to 462 or whatever, that ain't a deal.
it's not enough. It's not enough.
Not
But I'm saying,
enough.
like, you have to really look at it. And if the seller doesn't take it, walk away. There's no emotion to it. You
Yeah.
know, we can't 450, 420.
They made a mistake in 22 and
You can't
23.
bail,
Ain't my mistake.
right. You can't bail them out. You got to do what's right for you under the circumstances.
Yeah.
And if it's worth it to pay the rent for 2 years and look at that as like a loss, but if you buy something under the right deal, all that money is you're paying yourself, you know? So it
Plus, you
just
said a
depends on the
lot of the
buyer.
houses need work.
Need work, a lot of it.
So why do I want to move into a money pit?
It depends on the deal, and that's why the broker matters. That's why the agent you're working with matters, because they're going to go through there, and you need someone who's going to tell you the truth. That not to get a commission and sell a house.
But you're
You need
telling me
somebody to
home
tell you the truth.
prices could go down 40, 50%. So why do I want to buy? I mean, look, I know we're real estate
No,
brokers and we make money
no,
when
no,
we
no.
sell houses. But if you were telling your
I get it.
son,
I'm not buying anything. I'm sitting on cash. I'm waiting. I'm cashed out of all my real estate. I'm waiting, man. But if you have somebody, I wouldn't advise a buyer to buy unless they need to buy. That's what I tell them. Do you need to buy right now? That's what I tell them. Is it a must? And that's what I tell them, because here's the situation. But here's the thing. You need someone that's going to go in there and look through and inspect this place with you, not as an inspector, but look, hey, if the roof's falling apart, or, the roof's like, I just had a house in Pennsylvania I looked at buying for my mom. Hey, the house was built in 2009. Okay. It was all original AC, original roof, original water heater. They're asking 385. 385 is what it's worth if it was in perfect condition. House is worth three and a quarter. No doubt about it. Like, I mean, three and a quarter, the condition it's in, I'll give them 385. They want to replace everything. I told them that. You want 385? Fix it all. Here's the list of things. Fix it. And then I said, I'll give you I'll give you three and a quarter, because I got to pay for all that to fix it. The guy bought it 2 years ago for 365 or something, and they wouldn't budge. I said, well, good luck. Take care. Because that's the stuff that there's no emotion involved. There's no, it's this, or it doesn't make any sense. It's logic.
keep it.
That's what a buyer needs. It's not about a sale. Make sure you don't have an agent looking for a commission. Make sure you have an agent and a broker that really wants you to be in a place that's going to work for you.
What do you tell the sellers? What do you tell the sellers that when, if they're thinking about selling their house right now, do you tell them to hold on and wait for a year? Or do you tell them to get it on the market as yesterday?
Same thing. Do you need to sell it? And it's the opposite conversation. Here's where we are. Here's what houses are selling for. Here's the market trajectory. Here's where it's going. Here's where you need to price it. You need to price 10 to 15,000 under what they sold for 3 months ago. Last month, 10 to 15,000 under, because that's where the market's going. There's 12,000 properties hitting the market every 7 days on average.
Still.
Okay. Still, it's gone up. Price drops are 15,000. I don't have it in front of me, but the last 7 days, over 15,000 price drops just in Stellar. That's not the other MLSs, just Stellar. So it's just getting worse. It's remember, we talked about this over and over. It's compounding, man, and nothing is selling.
So my advice to the buyers is sit tight.
And the thing is, the same things for the sellers. There's no reason, like, unless you have to sell and you need that money or you need to go somewhere, you're going to get less. Now, if you don't sell it now, you're going to get less in 3 months or a year. It's a long-term thing right now. And I don't know where it goes, Todd. The industry, I've never seen anything like this, where it's been so drastically. I mean, look, it's been here, and in the last 3 years, it went like this. And then now it already made the turn, man. It's coming back down. The baseline is here. It's going to come back down.
The only reason it's pumping, in my opinion, the only reason it's pumping is because you have buyers that are represented by real estate agents, and they're saying you better buy now, because if you don't, it's going to be. I mean, look, it really is. I wish I didn't have to say that, but I've seen so much of it where, it's like all the listing agent has to do. All right, let's take a scenario. And I've been on the listing side of it. Let's take a scenario. Let's take a house at 500, just say 500,000 for the ease of saying it, keeping it simple. I put it on the market. I have an open house the first weekend. Man, there's a lot of activity. It's coming, a lot of people coming through, 20 sets of people come through on an open house. Maybe I have 10 or 15 showings, and I get an offer. And your first offer is usually your best offer. Would you agree? I mean, historically, right? Your first, because it's your most exuberant buyer. I mean, it makes sense. It's like the one that's like, I don't want to wait. I got to put it in right away. Let's put it in. And the offer comes in at 500,000, let's just say, right at list price. So what's the agent do? The listing agent. And you can't blame them. They're repping the seller, trying to get them as much. They go, well, we are setting an offer deadline for, and this is Saturday, by the way, we're going to set an offer deadline for Monday at 6:00 p.m. Well, they already got what they want, or even close to it. Maybe it's less. Maybe it's 485.
Right.
That's what the first buyer was excited to spend. What that agent does is go back to all the buyer's agents and say, look, you saw it. We've got, offer in hand, offers are coming, whatever. Get them to us. So what does that do to the buyers? The buyer's like, oh my gosh, they got an offer. That means that somebody, it's worth the 500,000 because they got an offer. And now all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. Here comes these offers. 550. Well, the agent is helping them. Well, if you want to get it accepted, you better be over list price. You guys know this is happening. If you're a real estate agent, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Show me where I'm wrong.
I just had one, Todd. I just had one where the house is in a golf course up here in Orange Park. And it's been on the market like 5 months. And we looked at it a couple of months ago, made an offer, and they declined it. So we came back, we made another offer, and we're getting closer. They decided, hey, let's try again. And I send the final offer in again. We didn't get it. They're still, we're 20 grand apart. So I send the offer in, and she's like, can you let us know by 3 p.m. tomorrow? Because we got another offer. I'm like, the place been on the market for 5 months. I mean, I'm telling you, I highly doubt there's been, they're 20 grand, they're 30 grand overpriced. I mean, it's just not,
and
it's one of those situations where I'm like, are you kidding? Like I just laughed about it, and
yeah. Well, that kind of leads us into the next thing. Let's talk about real estate agents. So without talking about commission rates or fees, because as brokers, we're not allowed to do that. What do you think? Do you think, and you and I, we talk off camera, not about that, but we do kind of share like frustrations of things that agents are doing, not even the money side of it. But, what's your overall opinion of the what has changed since the new NAR rules and the lawsuits DOJ settlement?
I think the settlement made it worse. The agents aren't following the terms. Like I have agents showing properties, making offers. They don't even have buyer agreements in place. Like they're required to, and they don't even, like their broker hasn't told them. I had one deal we closed, and I paid the guy. He had to get the broker agreement after the fact. The seller paid him. She didn't have to. She could have said, "Hey, you didn't have an agreement. Like the agreement wasn't signed." But she did. She did the right thing. The quality of the agents. I mean, not just since August. I'm talking about since the last, I'd say, 5 years. Like the floor's fallen out. Like it used to be an honorable thing to be a realtor, to be a broker, to be an agent, right? Now it's like the communication isn't there. Agents, they need something, they're there. The minute it's not a deal or there's no professionalism, again, they don't show up to the showings. I'm using the super boxes because I don't trust these agents. I don't know who they're giving the codes to. At the end of the day, we're responsible, right, for our fiduciary duty to the seller. If an agent goes in there, what if they give this code to somebody, or they're not the top of the, they're not, producers, or they're not even responsible themselves. The brokers are giving so much freedom to the agents that there's no training for them. And listen, I'm coming to you as an instructor. I teach the classes for people to get licensed. And if you look at the hearings online, the DBPR runs hearings. They're letting people get licensed that have records from years ago and giving people second chances. And I wouldn't trust those people in my house. I just listed a condo in Palm Beach, about 15 minutes from Mar-a-Lago. I just listed this condo. It's a little bit older, beautiful. It's 1.1. And I'm talking to the guy. He had major issues with the agent, major issues. The guy lied to him, all kinds of stuff. They had it listed on the market. It wasn't on the market anymore. And the agent lied to him. MLS got involved. The guy got fined, had to take it down. We waited 30 days, put it on the market to reset everything. So I go down there. We're doing the photos. I'm in Palm Beach. Wonderful guy. So he's telling me we're there doing the pictures. And he's like, I never told anybody this about what happened before. So this agent, it was a mother and a son. The mother was the broker and the son was the agent. It was the small brokerage, And he goes, he has cameras in the rooms. He travels. He's from Israel. He travels. He's all over the country. His family has property in Maine and all kinds of stuff. So he goes, one night, the other agent, he brought a girl back to his apartment, spent the night in the apartment there with some girl. Todd, I'm like, and he never told
it's
nobody.
Vacant. I got a cool place with a great view that we can go. We can go. We're gonna take these sleeping bags or these blow up mattresses and a cooler.
And he had cameras in every room. He has everything.
Oh,
he has everything. And I'm like, and he's like, I didn't want to say nothing. He's like, I didn't know who to say anything to. Like, I mean, where did these
having pool parties in the backyard? What do you think? I mean, tell me where
did they get the balls to do it?
So you're seeing that people are not signing the buyer agency agreements. Is it a requirement in Florida that they sign a buyer agency agreement before they go in? And the reason I ask that, because in Maryland, we have two forms. We have a form to where we could say, look, if you want to be represented by me, sign this one. This is a buyer agency agreement. Or if you just want to see the house and you want to kind of get to know me a little bit before you sign this agreement, you sign this agreement that says, which isn't a contract straight across the top, but it lets you know that if you don't have a buyer agency agreement in place with me, then I technically work for the sellers. Do you have that type of disclosure still where they can still show the house?
Yeah. In Florida, there's two forms. You have a showing agreement form if you just want to show a property and not do a long-term agreement, and you have a buyer agreement. Now, the showing agreement form and the buyer agreement form have to be signed even before you do a virtual showing.
One or the other. One or the other. Right.
Now, what I would do the buyer broker agreement, right? The buyer broker agreement for one property. You can do that. I don't do the showing agreements because there's no reason to. If I have a client that wants to see 5 properties, I'll do an agreement for those 5 properties if they don't want to sign a long-term one. And I'll do a 180-day term. So look, if I show you these 5 properties and you want to buy them in the next the next 180 days, I'm going to represent you on that. If you don't want to sign an agreement on others,
I disagree with that though.
But here's the thing: you got to give them the freedom, because here's why.
That's not freedom.
But why? Wait, hold on. Hear me out a second. Tell me. Let's hear me out. So if I'm going to take the time, do the research, show the 3-4 properties. Let's say 3-4 properties, and they're okay with me representing them for 3 or 4. And here's why. Most buyers don't want to commit to you till they know who you are and how you operate because of what's out there. I could tell them everything until I'm blue in the face.
But if they want to buy one of those 5 properties, they have no idea who you are. You're going to lock them down for 6 months, and you may be a horrible negotiator. You may be a bad person. You may be, if somebody's meeting you for the first time, I mean, I have no problem in meeting somebody for the first time and saying, look, I'll show you this house. If you want to see 3 houses and they're all lined up in the same day or whatever, why not just sign the other agreement or disclosing to them, don't give me anything confidential. I'm going to open the door and show you these things. But before we go out again, a second time, I'm not going to do it unless you sign a buyer agency agreement. But at least I have now time, because here's what happens. what happens is people call up, a lot of agents do Zillow leads or realtor.com leads, or they call you because they saw you on YouTube and they don't know who you are, but they want to go out and see this property. Can you show it to me? I don't want to say, well, you don't know who I am. Sign this document. That means if you like any of these 5 houses, I'm your guy. I could be the worst negotiator
Well, here's why.
ever.
Yeah. Here's why for me. And it just happened to me. Okay. I didn't show any properties yet. This guy, I didn't do agreement. I didn't have to. It was a person who came to me from one of our videos, a buyer. They were from Canada and they're in another state and they wanted to move to a place in Florida. They knew where they wanted to be. They used to live in Florida. And I went against my rule, right? I went against my rule and I said, okay. They saw 4 properties they were interested in. I pulled up, I did 4 reports on the property, sent them the 4 reports. I connected them with my lender. They had another lender they were talking to before. I connected them with my lender. They were unaware that they could get first time buyer assistance of $17,000 to $18,000. They were unaware of a certain loan program that my lender was going to approve them for that was going to make everything much better for them. Better rate, better everything. Okay. I send them the reports. I get a call from my lender. Hey, Phil, these people that you're working with just called me. They want me to send the approval to another agent over there that they're working with. Called me right away because I do tons of deals. Now, here's what happened. I did all the research. I did everything for the property.
On 4 properties. It probably took you less than a half an hour.
Doesn't matter if it took me 15 seconds. I did it, right? It's the principle, right? It doesn't matter how long it took. If they get that property now, who's procuring calls in that? Me, right? So, and I have documentation. I'll fight that. I don't care. I'll go right. I can't let it go under contract. See what happens. I'll fight that till I have no breath left because it's principle to me, right? So
all you did was talk to them on the phone.
I talked to them on the phone. I sent them the reports. I connected them with the lender to get the pre-approval for it.
Another 5 minutes. I mean, I hear what you're saying, brother, but you know what? Sometimes you eat the bear. I mean, it's you're not going to get every bit. You're not going to get it all.
You're going to have that, and I want to eliminate that. I don't want that.
I'm from I have a different. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. You're entitled to do that,
and that's how I am. Because
I look at it as if I'm doing my job, I don't want everybody. I don't want every client. But if I'm doing my job, I mean, I've always seemed to be able to pay my bills and feed my family and, by doing a good job and whatever. If I don't get them all, I don't get them all. But I still don't want to lock somebody in with me that could be unhappy with the job that I could be doing. I wouldn't do that myself. If I met somebody on the front porch being in the business and for the first time, I decide I'm going to move to Florida. And I don't know anybody in that area, and I go there and I meet somebody. I'm like, look, give me the other contract. I'm not going to tell you anything, but until I know you, until we sit down and have coffee together or go over your processes, and I get some referrals, and I understand, how you conduct your business, I don't want a lot. And maybe you will get the buyer agency on the 3 houses that we just looked at. Maybe you won't, but I don't want to. I don't think it's right. I don't think that we should, most agents suck.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is too, I agree with you. 74% close no deals, right?
Most of them suck.
I don't blame them. I don't blame the public for being skeptical at all, dude. Like at all. But when I meet with somebody, I do a 45-minute presentation with them. Everybody gets the 45-minute presentation. Here's my brokerage. Here's my school. Here's my record. Here's my referrals. Here's my comments from people. Here's all the deals I closed. Here's who I am. Now, do you want to work with me? Right? This is what I bring to the table. And then that's when they decide. I give them that 45-minute consultation. I give them the whole picture of who I am. And then at that point, they can decide if they want to work with me or not. Because I'm not going to go any further. Because when you do go further, this stuff happens. And I don't have
somebody chooses a different agent. I mean, sometimes I want them to choose a different agent.
No, it's okay.
And I could be showing them houses for 3 months and I'm still happy if they choose another agent. Because there's some people you can't make happy.
In that 45-minute conversation, I'll know if I want to work with them. I'll tell, by the end of that conversation, if I don't think I'm a good fit for them, I'll
I hear you.
Go do this.
I got you. You got your system. All right. Well, look, I got to give you a hard time a little bit. I mean, if people watch our videos together, they know that we kind of push back on each other a little bit,
You
which
ever see
is,
some of the comments?
oh,
They,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love
they
it.
either love me or hate me, or they love you or hate you. It's like,
Right, right, right. I mean, and that's okay. That's cool. I'm fine with that actually because, I think, look, I think what we're doing is, we're taking the time right now to educate the audience and educate buyers and sellers. And there's a lot of grandparents out there and parents out there that share these videos with their families that are in the home buying process. Or maybe it's somebody, maybe it's the exact opposite. It's a young person sending it to mom or dad, that is recently widowed and they're thinking about selling their house and they want to, see what the markets are like. So I think what we're doing is a great service. And I love that you come on and we have these great conversations. You think we're going to see a lot of consolidation over the next couple of years? A lot of brokers closing shop and a lot of agents beating feet and running from this business.
we're already seeing it, man. If like what 400,000 agents of the last number didn't renew. I mean, Florida March 31st is a new renewal period. I mean, our continuing education for people to extend their licenses is down like 40%. Like
Are you
they're
see
not renewing.
are you seeing a lack of enrollment in your school?
So yeah, the enrollments are down. I actually, what I do is I do online courses self-paced and I do live courses on Zoom. And I have a classroom here behind me. But no one really comes into the classroom anymore. Everybody why drive, why park, why come, and then drive home after the class. Like they just jump on Zoom like this and we just, do the class live on Zoom and the testing is all online and everything. So most people don't even like I haven't had a class live. I can't even tell you. I just do them on Zoom. Um and Classes are down, enrollments are down. What I am seeing though is the people who are enrolling are more serious. I have attorneys who are getting their license. I have bankers who are getting their license, mortgage people who are getting their license. It's like they're consolidating. Like the mortgage people want to start getting into the real estate side and
I've
doing
heard
rescue.
that. Yeah, they want to do
That
both. They want to do
that's
both.
that's the, well, the Mortgage Bankers Association recommended everybody who's
I
licensed
saw
to get
that.
a real estate license.
I
So,
saw that.
and it's happening. Like that's my next class is a lot of mortgage people and attorneys. And I have
Interesting.
one guy, like a husband and wife, couple husband and wife teams, like that are going to get their license and work together. I have a couple of those in the next class. A matter of fact, I have a gentleman who's a cardiologist here in Florida, 20 years, getting his license right now. He wants to start doing real estate in addition to, with his career in
He
medical.
wants to give the people heart attacks so that he can
Yeah.
build his
So,
so he can build
so
his
that's,
right, like, let me sell you houses directly around my medical practice, and that way when you can't afford to pay them, I'm looking at my timeline here, when you can't afford to pay 'em, in about a year and a half you're going to come and see me when you're completely stressed out.
yeah, but that's what I'm seeing. More professional people. He has a network of doctors that he's going to be doing transactions for the different things like that and things. But like that's what I'm seeing.
He
It's
must
less
be a bad cardiologist because
exactly. He's
those
really good.
guys make money. I can't imagine why he would ever want to get his real estate license for a declining, in a declining industry where I believe that
I don't think it's
maybe here
unrealistic.
one day soon we won't even need real estate agents. I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have said that a couple years ago. I would have said that there's no way it could happen. The more and more I learn about what's going on, the nonsense in this industry and the costs that are involved with the housing, is the more that I say, you know what, the first jobs probably going to get cut here are going to be real estate agents because they're going to say, you know what, in this price of the house is a lot of costs that are being considered, and and the seller could maybe be able to get out of that house by selling it for less if they just have a buyer and a seller that can work together, a title company that can do the contract. They have all the contracts. They're attorneys. Title companies, a lot of them are attorney owned. You find a title company that's in your state, and I'm starting to see more of this happening. And in the future, I have to be honest with myself. And you know what? It's like the guy that said that Walmart would never make it.
Yeah, I
No
tell you,
one would ever want to go and buy all their products, from a company like Walmart and rob all of the owner-occupied retail establishments that have been passed down for generation to generation to generation. And when they are nailing up the forever closed sign, crying their eyes out, they're like, damn, I didn't think people would really shop at Walmart. You have to be honest with yourself and say a lot is going to change coming down the road. But
I'll tell
anyway,
you, in our very first video, we talked about it, and I told you, I think buyer agents are gone, dude.
they
I mean,
might all be gone.
just like in Europe,
All be gone.
in Europe, in Europe, you have listing agents, and there's one agent that handles the whole thing, and you have
Right.
attorneys that
And
review.
they probably make a lot less money overall,
Yeah,
but
no, 100%,
yeah.
100%, and that's going to change too. That's going to change too. But
Yeah.
the industry is not going to be the same in a couple years, man. And I don't know where it's going or
Yeah.
how it's going to work. But this whole structure with NAR and states it's all going to implode because the leaders of it are misguided themselves. They don't even know what they're doing. They're just taking paychecks
Yeah.
and extending it as long as they can.
Yeah.
It's like USAID,
All right, brother.
It's
Well,
such a big
I appreciate you, Phil. I always do, man. I like the clean look, man. The clean shaven look. Now, good thing you did it now before the sun started, giving you a tan, and then you shaved it off, and you'd be like, "Whoa, I gotta go head to the beach," which isn't far from you. So, anyway, have a great day, buddy. We'll look forward to having you back on sometime real soon.
All right, it's good to see you guys, man.
Good
Take
to
care.
see you. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, you can let us know by smashing that thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so now. Hit that alert bell. You'll know every time we upload content just like this. Keep those comments and questions coming. And one of the biggest compliments you can do for us all here at Sachs Realty is to share our channel and this video with your family and friends. This will help us to continue to build this amazing online community with viewers just like yourself. See you next time. Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.